Hello. Well, I'm about to pick up the fourth version of my book. Um, I sent it in last weekend. Now it's Friday, Sunday evening, and that weekend I added something uh, about one of the more than 120 famous persons in the book. And well, in the previous version, he was just mentioned as the man who wrote fairy tales. And, but in the new version, all the things I discovered last weekend and which, well, really did something special to me, um, which, um, kept me busy all week. Well, I have been doing some things, but not writing anymore. Hans Christian Andersen, and um, well, it's not fairy tales that make him special to me. It's love for women that make him very special to me. Um, I did read on Wikipedia that he refused sex to women, but not because he was gay, but because he was in love. But in love, with women who, well, it didn't work out with when he made his advances. So, and then, I have added to that new version of the book the story of a very courageous tin soldier. Well, so he only had one leg, that's a toy soldier of metal. So when the caster, who had melted the metal, was casting 25 soldiers, the last one, had only one leg because, there was not metal enough to give him a second leg. So the other 24, they had two legs and he only got one. But he fighted very, very courageously with his fellow soldiers, the battles in the children's playroom, and well, and then he saw her, a girl standing on one leg. She was a ballerina. She had two legs, but she was standing on one leg in front of the carton castle. And he loved her so much. He couldn't take his eyes off her. And he was in love, deeply in love. But he couldn't, he was too shy to tell her he loved her. And so he always looked at her. And then there was a magician, and he told him not to look at her anymore. But he couldn't. And he always saw her. And then, maybe by force of the magician, suddenly there was a very, very powerful gusts of wind, and he took the soldier, threw him out of the window of the children's playroom, and he ended up on the street. And there well, he was found by playing children on the street, and well, they were playing with a paper boat on some water. And one of the children said, "Hey, look, I have found the captain for our boat." And so he put the tin soldier straight into the paper boat. And then it started raining and raining and pouring out rain. And so the children decided to go home and go inside. And, they left the paper boat in the water with a tin soldier in it. And as the rain was pouring in, the water started to become wild, and the boat was floating straight into some sewage pipe, and it was very dark, and the soldier was very afraid but very courageous, and he was still thinking about his loved one. And then suddenly the, the water became too wild. They did fall into a canal, and the boat started making water, and the paper boat was sinking, and the metal soldier was going down to the bottom of the canal. And then just before he touched that bottom where he would have been forgotten forever, a fish swallowed him. And the fish, well, he stayed in the stomach of the fish, and the fish was swimming around. But a few weeks later, the fish was captured, and it was sold to the house where the um, the tin soldier originally came from. What a coincidence! So he got back to the house where he came from, and in the kitchen maid started to prepare the fish for cooking, and she discovered the tin soldier, and she recognized him, and she put him back into the, the children's playroom, and there, finally, after so many weeks, he saw back his ballerina, his loved one, still standing at the front of the carton castle. And again, he couldn't take his eyes off her. He was so happy to see her back. But then suddenly, one of the children took the tin soldier and threw him into the fireplace where there was a burning fire. And so the tin soldier started, as he was of metal, started to melt. And it was very, very frightening. And he was really almost giving up all hope of ever seeing back his loved one, his ballerina, when suddenly, maybe by force of the magician, there was again a powerful burst of wind which took up the ballerina up in the air, and she landed in the fireplace right next to the tin soldier. And they burned together. And the next day, when the kitchen maid came to clean the fireplace, between the ashes, she discovered a tiny metal heart of the tin soldier. And right next to it, she found in the form of a rose what had been the silver paper dancing skirt of the ballerina. Well, what a beautiful story. And so Hans Christian Andersen in his real life, well, he loved women, but like for instance, but they were unreachable. Like he loved a Swedish singer. I think her name was Jenny, and so she talked with him, and they were friends. She even considered Hans Christian so friendly that he was her brother. But she didn't want a romantic relationship with him. Instead, she, that Swedish singer, was in love with Friedrich Chopin, the man who played the piano. He was from Poland, but he played in Paris. And it seems, well, but I didn't mention that in my book, that she wrote to Hans Christian that she really loved Chopin so much that, yeah, she wanted to give, she went to visit Chopin when he was dying of some um, epidemic in Paris. And Chopin, she wanted to see him, and risk her life even to see him. And so, yeah, but well, not for Hans Christian. She didn't have that kind of feeling, but they were friends. Well, and he never got a love of his life, but his fairy tales became very famous. Well, he has written over, well, 3,000 pieces of text, Hans Christian Andersen, but also plays and theater, novels, whatever. He has written a lot, but he's most famous for his fairy tales. The Little Sea Mermaid, I think, is of his hand. And also, well, you have in Germany the Grimm brothers, and they collected um, stories which had been told by common people during centuries. So that are historical fairy tales, and they just write them down. But Hans Christian, he invented them, he created them, and not just one, like Charles Dickens. He just wrote he became famous for Oliver Twist, but that is just one story. But Hans Christian, he had so much fantasy that he invented so many fairy tales. And well, a very special person. But he was from very poor family in Denmark, but he had a good voice, and he started singing, and he went to the National Theater. But yeah, and there the director of the theater discovered that he had very good talent for poetry and writing poetry, but he was not able to write very well. So the director of the theater company gave him the chance to go to a school where he could to learn to write in very well, in the proper way. So, and he did that as a very young man, and then later well he he started writing. And yeah, of course, he became famous for his writing, but a loved one he didn't find. But he was of humble, very poor beginnings. But he as he became more famous, I guess he he got richer, but not that he was really finding the love of his life. But he wrote about it, and all those fairy tales, well, they certainly concern, a lot of it turned around a man loving a woman, and it was usually some kind of princess or something. And well, I really, I found it quite interesting last weekend to discover that. I have also been reading about another person. Let me think. I added two persons last weekend out of 120, which, I explain a little bit more. So, I'm gonna pick up the book and maybe start reading a bit about it. And it's not my final version. I have written quite a lot about some things which might need some reordering, but on the other hand, it is already something. And yeah, even if it's not a final version, and I also want to get out all the spelling errors. So I don't print at home, but I let print 1-2 books, usually 2, already the 4th time. And I had some cream paper. Now I have more white paper. I'm testing also different covers. We'll see. I didn't publish the book, but I already gave it to a member of parliament who a year ago I spoke on the book fair. And he's also he's 60 years old, but he was a businessman, and he's gonna read my book with Christmas, because I promised him to give him my ideas in a book. I promised him to give them in his mailbox. Maybe printed text, but yeah, it ended up with being a book. And so, well, I hope you, well, some kind. Well, I will start. Well, I'm gonna pick up the book.